Hi everyone, welcome to my channel and another video for Technique Junkies. Today we'll be highlighting the My Dear Friend stamp set from Technique Junkies, as well as another stamp and some Shimmering Bliss Sprays. So let's get started. Alright, for today's video we'll be using these Shimmering Bliss Sprays, and I'm going to create a background here on some watercolor paper. We'll be using an older stamp, the Tamashii Modern Frame, and the stamp from the new release, My Dear Friend, with these beautiful, beautiful sentiments. So let's get started. And I'm going to start out with and I apologize, I can't see the colors. Of course, I'm doing a voiceover because of the heat wave, so it's 6 o'clock in the morning. But I will list the colors I use down below in the description box. But I'm using mostly blues and just a touch, and I know that's Thulian Pink. I know one of them's Miami Vice, one of them's Dolphin Cove. I can't remember the other one. But these make a beautiful shimmery background. And I'm just going to kind of wait for that to move around a bit, and I'm going to dry it with my heat tool. And it's, now you can set this later on with some hairspray or whatever you like to set your projects with, because some of the mica will come off, but it is extremely sparkly and beautiful. And I thought it would make kind of a pretty sunset background for that Tamashii Modern Frame. So the thing I like about the sentiment stamps is you can use them on anything, right? It doesn't matter. You can make a flowery card, you can make an abstract card, you can make whatever kind of card you want. And I'm not too worried about those edges there, by the way, because I will be trimming this down quite a bit. I cut my watercolor paper extra big so that I have that wiggle room there on the sides where you see those lines running. I will kind of just remedy that with a little bit of spray just at the very corners, just to make sure that I get everything covered that I need covered. And I'll be stamping in black today with just some VersaFine Clair. So this card is a lot easier than it looks when it's done, just getting these colors down. And I'm not worried about that little part right there, because that's the part where the top of the tree corner is, and I think it's a ginkgo tree or a ginkgo bush. I don't know if they're bushes or trees. You tell me. I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen one in person. If I did, I didn't give it any notice, but look how shiny that is. Oh, yum. So I will get out my stamping platform for this, because I know that if I'm stamping over mica, I'm going to need more than one stamping, because the first stamping to me just doesn't really quite penetrate the thickness of the mica, and I'm wanting to get it, you know, basically flat on there. I don't want this part to be sparkly. So I'm just going to kind of lay this on here and put down my magnets here so that it doesn't move when I do my second or third stamping. And I'm going to go ahead and grab my VersaFine Clair and just ink up my stamp. I do recommend having a fairly wet ink pad. Now I keep refills for this because I use it all the time. So I use that, and I use my Twilight. And this would have looked really good in the Twilight as well, come to think of it. But I went for black because I'm wanting that contrast. And sorry about the cats. They're fighting out there. So I'm going to stamp it again one more time. And I think I'm going to be doing a third time, just simply because that top right corner, either I'm not giving it enough time. You have to be patient with this stuff and let it sink in. Yeah, I just want a little bit darker right on that top right corner there. And then I didn't let it dry necessarily, but you probably should. Because you know, that pigment ink sits on top and it stays wet for quite a bit of time. But I'm going to go ahead and just trim this down. Let me just get my stamp platform out of the way. And I want to trim it down to the frame. And I'm going to trim it to, you know, right around 4 by 5 1/4. So I do have a line to work with there. So I'm going to try and eyeball match up the line with the blade. and then just go ahead and trim it all the way around. And so I do end up losing a little bit because I want to get it down to size, but that's okay. It's just the bottom part. It's black. We still have all our beautiful, beautiful stamping with the two little dragonflies and then our little kind of abstract coloring in the background. And so next I'm going to be doing my sentiment stamp. Now I'm going to heat set this to make sure that it's nice and dry, because I don't want to smear it, and if I can smear something, I absolutely will. I fell in love with this stamp the first time I saw it. It's just such a gorgeous stamp. And these sentiments, the handwriting on them, the script is just amazingly beautiful. If I could write that way. So I'm going to be using Happy Birthday, and I did do a little surgery on my happy birthday, and most of these stamps you can do that with. They're spread far enough apart because I want my placement to be, you know, it's wide. You know, these are great for a slim line. So I'm doing, of course, my testing method and testing it out on the acetate to make sure I like where it is. And I'm not too crazy about it, so I'm going to move it. I'm going to move my happy up and move my birthday up so that they, you know, are, I don't know, composed in a way that makes the card balanced. Now, if you're ever having a problem balancing your card, if you finished it and it just looks out of balance, utilize some sequins or other kinds of embellishments to make that balance happen. All right, so I'm happy with the placement, so I'm going to go ahead and I am going to grab my ink. And oh, guess what? I didn't remember I heat embossed this. So I've got my clear embossing powder, and I've got my, I did my anti-static powder bag. And now I'm going to go ahead and stamp this down. And again, it doesn't matter if I get the embossing powder any other places because it's black. So, and the embossing powder is clear, so it's not really going to show. But I'll go ahead and pour over my clear embossing powder, and you see there's a little bit on the dragonfly, and I'm not even worried about that because again, this ink stays wet for a long time. I've had it feel wet for hours later when I'm trying to do embossing. So I'll go ahead and just emboss that down, and there that kind of, so to me it feels still a little unbalanced, so you'll see that I will make the great equalizer and equalize that out with some sequins. But I'm also going to do the edges here in the VersaFine Clair in black. I'm just going to use my little brush, and I'm just going to kind of feather that color into the edges here just to kind of give it a little bit more drama and to showcase what's in the center. So, and you see I'm trying to grab ink off of my little mat there too, but I want it really nice and dark around the edges there, and I'm happy with that. This is the point where I usually get black ink all over my hands, so let's get this wiped up. Oh gosh. All right, we're ready to rock and roll with that. Now I want to put that down on a black card base. Just because I don't know, just I like the way that it feels on the black. So I will go ahead and, you know what I think I'm going to do here is I think I'm going to do a little white mat around it first. So I'm just going to glue it down to a white piece of paper, and then I'm going to trim it to where it's barely visible, the white. And you see right there where I lost a little of my black, I just used my little Posca pen to fill that in. So I go ahead and glue this down just to create, I want to create a really thin frame around this. And you could use your die cuts if you wanted to. I know that several companies, I think the most popular is Gina K, make great die cuts for doing this. I don't have them, so I'm just going to use my cutter. I want to let that dry. Now it's dry, I'm going to go ahead and trim it down. And you see that I'm pulling my little panel just beyond the guard and just kind of trimming it down on each side. And I can see where it's going to cut from the top part of my guillotine trimmer, so I'm just checking to make sure I've got it all nice and even. And this side I can see I went a little wonky. I probably moved while I was cutting it. So now I've got a white frame around there, and that kind of makes it pop off of that black cardstock. I felt like it kind of got lost. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this down and get it nice and dry. Yeah, I'm liking the way this looks. And then I'm going to pop out my sequins, and I'm going to place some sequins to kind of balance this out. So here it is without the sequins, and I'm grabbing, these are my sequins from Honeybee Stamps. They're and I've gone ahead and popped them on, so there we go. Now we've got a balanced card. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Thanks for watching, and have an awesome day.